Hey guys, welcome back into my channel. Last week we talked about abandonment issues between my parents and my own marriage, and today I want to talk about abusive marriages. So it's kind of a tough subject for anyone because when we're in an abusive marriage, it's kind of hard to see the signs. The people around you will see them and you don't want to accept them. So that's okay if you've been in that kind of situation. I was there twice with the same man. The thing is that in my situation, I'm just going to tell you the story as to how we met and all that. Maybe you can relate. I was really young. As I told you before, I was going after one of my ex-boyfriends and trying to get back with him. And this guy came out of nowhere. My sister met him and introduced us, and he told me that his girlfriend at the time was crazy, and he said really bad things about her that I believed, unfortunately. As the years went by, I learned that wasn't true, that she is perfectly fine. She is a great person, and I learned that all of that was a lie just to get me into thinking that he was miserable. So it's like a whole victim act. Then after that, he started making me feel so special and so amazing, and this tactic is called love bombing. So he would buy me things and make me feel really special and make me feel amazing and tell me how beautiful I was, how amazing I was, how everything. He made me feel like no man had ever made me feel before. It felt euphoric. So it was like it felt like a movie, like an out of this world love and out of this world everything, So I was a student. I had my own car. I was very independent. My dad raised me to be very independent. And as time went by, I started, I was living with him for a while. Then we moved to my parents' house where we had an efficiency. And he decided to move in with me to the efficiency. From there, I got a really good job. But during the time that we were living in the efficiency, there was a moment where we went to his mother's house and we got into a huge argument because he got hurt one day and I didn't go tend to him, because I'm the kind of person that if I get hurt, I don't want to be touched for at least 5 minutes. I'm like, let me breathe it out, and then you can hug me, but let me because if I'm hurt, just don't touch me. That's the kind of person I am. So with him, it was a freshly new relationship at the time, and I wasn't sure what to do, so I gave him his space, and he was, oh my goodness, he was just, his temper was very difficult to explain. He went ballistic. He started yelling at me. He's like, you don't care about me, what's wrong with you? And so he starts screaming. So we go inside the house and he punches a hole right through the wall, through the bedroom. And right there I was like, okay, this is not normal. I was still in my right mind, and I said, this is not normal. Like, I've never experienced this kind of, like, my dad was never aggressive like that around me, and no. So I started picking up my stuff, and but I had my niece there with me, and I was about to tell her, let's go. And he was like, please don't leave, like all of a sudden. And then I said, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then I'll decide what I'm gonna do. Like, I needed 2 seconds to think. So he followed me in there, and then when he followed me in there, he was like, he started gripping the countertops like this, and then he looked at me and he blacked out, like he wasn't even there, and he was like just angry, and then he slaps the door of the bathroom because he's so angry, and I'm sitting here like, this isn't normal behavior. What is going on here? So after that, his friend came in. Like, he was trying to come into the bathroom. He's like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? Like, is that, because he thought that he was hitting me. And I was like, don't worry, everything's fine, because he never hit me. At that point, I come out of the bathroom, and he's telling me, please don't go, don't leave. Okay, cool. I'm like, I'm gonna sleep here, rest, because I had my car there. I really was about to leave, but I was like, let me just rest this off and see how I feel in the morning. And he was apologizing, promising me that he'll never get like that again. And this was my first experience with a relationship like this. I had never in my life experienced anything like this. So you know, he told me he was sorry. And then the next morning, his mom pulled us aside and said, you know, what happened last night? I don't agree with what's going on. You're acting like your father. His father was very abusive throughout his childhood, and there are many stories linked to that. So time went by. He was calm for a bit. Our fights would start getting a little more heated and a little more heated and a little more heated. But the thing is that when I argue, I don't shut up. Like, I stand my ground, because I've never been a victim in that case. Like, I've never, how do I explain it? In my sexual past as a child, yeah, I kept my mouth shut. But in relationships, I've always spoke up, and I have always said what I need to say, because I stand up for myself in that aspect. So I've never been one to back down and say, you know, let somebody speak to me like I'm a child, an animal, or, you know. So he didn't like that. So we moved from the efficiency, we moved to an apartment. I got a really good job, and, you know, we were making really good money between the two of us. And at that point, he was like, oh, let's get you a better car. So the car that I had at the time was actually paid off by my dad. So what I did was turn it in, get a new car, and put it under his name, which was my mistake. So I got that car. I was really happy. Like, it was like, I want an apartment. He was like, yeah, let's do it. I want a car. Yeah, let's do it. I want a new phone. Let's do it. Like, everything was just given to me, given to me, given to me, given to me. And then it came to a point where I was extremely stressed out at work, and the stress was killing me. I had a really horrible boss, like really hurtful, really personally hurtful, not just like put me down at work, but it was a personal issue going on. I couldn't take it. And from there, we ended up moving in with his mom. Oh, at living in that apartment, we ended up getting married, and we went through the court. We did it really quickly. We didn't have an official wedding, anything like that. It was just quick, straight to the point. And he would tell me, it's just a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. It's just, I was like, you know, it would hurt my feelings to my core, because to me, when I marry someone, I'm committed. Like, it's not, to me, it's not a piece of paper, you know? So it would hurt me, and he would use it to just jab me and jab me and jab me. And okay, cool. All of a sudden, he started, like, we moved to his mom's house, and then all of a sudden he started retracting all of that love bombing, and then all of a sudden I was craving it. And I was like, what happened? Like, I was like, where's that attention? Where's this? Where's that? And then we decided to have a baby after his younger brother had a baby, and I get pregnant with my daughter. During the pregnancy, it was horrible. My pregnancy was great, but we moved while I was pregnant. I had to carry heavy furniture. He had no remorse. He had no respect for his daughter in my womb. Like, he just didn't. It's very hard for me to talk about still. So through that process, like, he would do things like, oh, go get me cereal, or oh, go cook for me, go this, go that, even though I was throwing up all day long, or those are the things that he would do. Coming to the end of that pregnancy, he all of a sudden decides that he's not happy anymore. And during that time, is how I said last week, I had the flu. I was 32 weeks pregnant, and we had just moved into our apartment, so we were still in boxes basically. And he was like, I'm not happy anymore. I can't do this anymore. And you need to prove to me that you love me. And it was just the craziest. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around what was going on. I'm like, we got married. We're having a baby. What's going on? Like, I couldn't understand. And he was the type of person that you couldn't get near his phone. Like, he would always have it upside down, or he would pull it away from you, or I'll be like, oh, can I use your phone for a second? And be like, hold on. And he'd probably delete stuff. Like, who knows at this point. I didn't catch any of the signs at that point. And I'm very naive, I guess. I'm very trusting, because I'm very loyal, so I expect the same in return. So at that point, I'm like, what is going on? So one day he decides to just drive off. He leaves. I'm assuming he was with someone, and he comes back very late. I asked him, come home. He comes home, but then after like 2 weeks, that's it. He was he left. Well, during our baby shower, he went and he was talking to his ex on FaceTime during the baby shower. So when I talk about these things, it's like it's crazy that I lived through this stuff, but it's okay. So it's made me stronger. It's made me open my eyes more. I'm less naive. So I later found out that he was talking to the ex during the baby shower. A lot of things were going wrong. When he left, I still let him, like, I kept letting him come to my doctor's visits, and I kept letting him be a part of that because I still cared about him. I was still in love with him, and I told him, you know, come to this appointment, that appointment. He would come, and then, like, at first he was very close to me, and then he started getting very distant, and then he would get close again, and then he would get distant. It was very strange. And then he would flirt with me, and then he would be dry with me, and it was like these mind games that I couldn't keep up with, and it was driving me to my limit. So I finally go into labor, and I allow him in the room. I allow his mother, and even the nurses were like, you are too nice to let them in here. And the amount of stress that he put on me that day was like, imagine laying there having your beautiful baby, like this should be the most beautiful moment, and you have your husband right there, but he's wanting to divorce you. And it's just, and when he left, don't mind you, I had no job. He took my car, and they cut the light that same day. He didn't even pay it, and I had no food in my fridge. Had it not been for my sister and my mother that came in to help, I don't know where I would have been. And God is great, because I don't know where I would have been, pregnant, alone, with no job, no money, no car. I don't know where I would have been. So I'm very grateful for my family. I heard that he was back with his ex, like after I had Jade, my daughter, and I heard that he was back with his ex, and then I was like, but how? But how could he? But how after? This is an ex before the ex that he first told me about, and this ex was supposedly crazier. So I was like, but he spoke so badly about her. How can he be back with her? I don't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was just, I couldn't believe it. So they were together for a bit, then they started having problems, then he came back, and then he's like, look, I want to work on our family, I want to, you know, make things work, I want to make up for leaving you while you were pregnant with Jade, and let's make this work. And then I said, you know, people make mistakes. My mom forgave my dad a bunch of times, it's what I grew up around. And I said, you know, let's give it another try, let's see what happens. So we were together another 18 months. We had never officially gotten divorced. And we decided to have my son, and we were living together alone in our own apartment for a bit, and things were all right, but he was very controlling of my money. He was very controlling of who I would hang out with, where I would go, what I would do. Like, I stopped hanging out with everybody because it was always like, oh, who are you with? Who are you cheating on me with? Who are you talking to? Who are you texting? The arguments, basically, they were getting worse. They were getting more heated. He got appendicitis during the time, and then he decided to quit his job. So at that point, he was jobless. So my mom and my sister took us in with our daughter. And then I got pregnant with our son, and he was like, I want to make up for leaving you with Jade, and this time is going to be different, and this time is going to be different. And during that time, a friend of mine was getting him a job at Best Buy, and once he starts working there, I way later found out, actually recently found out, that as soon as he started working there, he would take off his wedding ring and tell everyone that he was getting divorced while we were trying to have a baby. So I still can't wrap my head around that one. And so he met his new girlfriend there, and I laugh because it's incredible. The amount of lies, the amount of manipulation, the amount of pain that I was put through, because during that time we got into a huge argument where I told you last week, he threatened me that he was gonna hit me like a man deserved to be hit, and then things were getting thrown all over the room, and my daughter was in the room, and that's at the moment where I gave my daughter to my mom, I think was the one, or my sister, came to my door, and I gave my daughter, and then he made me get in the car with him. He started driving crazy, and then he's like, you see, you're so selfish, you're not worried about me eating. This was all over because I didn't cook, because I was feeling nauseous because I was pregnant with his child. So at the time, like, I was always justifying his behavior. I was always thinking it was okay to be treated this way. And he always made me feel stupid. He always made me feel incompetent. He always made me feel like I wasn't worth anything. He made me feel like I couldn't do things. He never empowered me, never pushed me to be a better person. I always felt like a piece of crap next to him. And with him, it was like he would boast, and he was the smart one, and he was just, so for a while there, I thought I was stupid. I thought I was crazy. I thought a lot of things about myself, which I now know is not the case. The manipulation, I see right through it now. So it's like I'm just, it's funny because I see right through it, and I'm just like, during that time, a friend of mine mentioned something about sociopaths and narcissism, and I was like, what is that? Like, I had no idea what that was. So I got a little bit curious, and I went out and I found this book at Barnes & Noble. Let's see if you can see it. It's called Psychopath Free, and it's basically recovering from emotionally abusive relationships with narcissists, sociopaths, and other toxic people. Like, I know it sounds drastic because we're not professionals. We're not here to diagnose people, but let's stick with toxic people, okay? And it's by Jackson Mackenzie. Let me see if you could see. I know there's a glare, but I'll find the link, and I'll write the information of the book under my video. But the thing is, I got this book, and I said, okay, as I read it, I'm going to highlight what I feel applies to this relationship. And I just want to show you, if you can see the yellow highlights of what related to my marriage. It is scary, okay? It is scary, and every tactic that he used is in here. They jump from one woman to the other because they feel their egos. It has a lot to do with their egos. They jump from one woman to the other, and then from one to the other, and they always have to have a backup. The love bombing stage, and then they take it away so that you're dependent on them. And it's this whole mind game that when I finished this book, I was like, I finally understand what I went through. Because when you're abandoned the way that I was abandoned, you just sit there in this storm in your head, and you're like, what did I just go through? Like, it doesn't feel like a normal breakup. Like, you sit there like, look, we're not happy. We haven't been happy for a few months. Let's talk about this. What should we do? Should we try counseling? No. It was this mess. Like, the day that we argued in the car and we got back home, he looked at me, and then all of a sudden his personality clicked back in, and he's like, you need to calm down, you need to relax, you can lose the baby. And when I saw the switch in his character, I was like, okay, no, there's something wrong here. There's something scary, very scary. So I was very numb for about 2-3 weeks maybe. And then I found him talking to a girl. And then I saw the pattern all over again, because he had left me for an ex the first time. This time he found a new girl. And that's when I told him, I don't want you to come back here. I waited for him to leave the house. He also stole my card, and he started using our income tax money. But he stole my card and he turned off the notifications on my phone. I couldn't see with the money that he was taking. Oh, and then I saw him without his wedding ring, and I was like, what happened to your ring? And he made up this story that he lost it while changing tires at his brother's shop, and it was just, nothing made sense. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I've had a baby by myself already. I can do it again. I'm totally cool with it. So then during that time, I was looking into getting divorced. I ended up getting a restraining order. I was very afraid for a while. I was very, very afraid of his actions, because he was not rational at all. Not rational at all. And then it's like, one moment he's like, oh, I miss you, I want you back. And then one moment it's like, oh, and then he tries to make me feel like the worst mother in the world or worst person in the world. And it's like, pick one, dude. Like, I can stick with one or the other, but the craziness, it's like. So if you feel that you've been in a relationship that you can't make sense of, that you can't that you feel like such a failure, that you feel like everything is your fault, because that's what they do. They make you feel like you did everything. You are the culprit. It's all your fault. You didn't love me enough. You didn't cook for me. You didn't iron my clothes. You didn't wash my clothes. You didn't keep the house clean. And they put all this pressure on you. And at the end, when you read a book like this, you realize it's not you. It was him or her. This is actually a man that wrote this book. So, there are women narcissists, there are men narcissists, and again, I am not labeling anybody, I am not diagnosing anybody, but the fact that I related this much to this book, let me tell you, they're very charming. They're very good with their words, and they're very well groomed. They're very put together, and they have the right words, and the charm is what makes you look past the manipulation. And once you're in the manipulation and in all the lies, it's too late. Your mind has already been messed with. So it's pretty intense. But I will put the title and author of this book, and again, Barnes & Noble. I'll put it under my video so that you guys can get a hold of this, because these relationships exist more than you can imagine. And if you feel like that, if you feel like the failure, like you caused the end of this, it wasn't you, sweetheart. Like, it wasn't you. There's a lot of mental illness out there, and not that I'm putting these people down that have these problems, that treat women or treat men this way, but the people with these, that they're sociopaths or narcissists, they're not empathetic. They don't feel for people. They don't know. They'll never in their lives realize that they have a problem. That's the issue, because they can never go and get help. Even if you tell them, hey, I think you're a narcissist, they'll be like, what? Because they're perfect. And their children have to be perfect. And everything has to be perfect. And everything in their life is a possession. That's the difficult part. And you want to change them because maybe you fell in love with that charming phase, but then when he became the real him or the real her, you're just like, what is going on? And who is this person? And who did I marry? Or who did I have a child with? You know? That's my story. And the best way to deal with narcissists after the fact is creating boundaries and respect. That's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say about that. If you have had similar experiences, anything like that, reach out to me. Let me know. I can give you some content out of this book if I find something that reminds me of your situation. And again, I highly recommend this book. It's amazing. So let me know. Again, all my links are on my page, and next week I believe I'm going to start talking about the divorce and how that started. So that's it for this week. Probably midweek I'll release another little bonus video for you guys, and then I'll see you Saturday for the Heal Talk series. So I'll see you guys very soon. I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys again. Thank you. You are strong. You are sure.